Just east of the Gateway Arch in St. Louis, Missouri, we welcome you to Madison, Illinois' Gateway International Raceway as it plays host here tonight to the 10th race of the third season of the Dark Horse Racing League. Under the lights here at this 1.25-mile speedway, Seth Cole alongside of Scott Rankin. Scott, last week we saw Robert Maleska III, defending champion, pick up his 4th victory on the season, and it looks like he, along with his Twisted Trojan Motorsports cars, they are fast here tonight. They may be the team to beat. What do you think? Do we see maybe one of the other Twisted Trojan cars go to victory lane, or does Maleska continue his tear?
Well, I mean, you can say Maleska is potentially on a tear. I'm more concerned about Nick DeGroot and Rick Ravon than I am Maleska. I mean, if you look at you look at the number of wins in the season, but a lot of Maleska's up until last week came in the very early portions of the season. I've got my eyes peeled on Ravon, on DeGroot, on Wagner, on Bennett. These guys have been there without fault every single step of the way. There was one exception, and that was Bennett and Maleska, who were obviously a mile down on the pace at Pocono due to some early rumblings that happened in that race. So, look, I think it could be anyone's game. The thing about Gateway is that it's a very closed-in track. It's narrow. The cars are going to be a lot closer together. That means everyone's cramped for room. And over the last few weeks, the racing's been intense. Can they continue that stretch here?
We're watching qualifying here in the final 3 minutes or so. That car you just saw slam the wall up of turn 2 was the aforementioned Matt Wagner, who sits 4th on the board of 4 drivers that have taken time. Jimmy Drynan's car we're looking at right now. He jumps to 6th. Charles T just ahead of him in 5th place. And here is Nick DeGroot, the former champion from Season 2. You talk about Rick Ravon. That's a notable absence from tonight's field.
Oh, he's not here.
In the server, not on the grid. And he was the points that are coming in tonight. 6 points over Nick DeGroot.
Well, DeGroot's going to walk away with that so long as he finishes the race, and that's something that'll be in the back of his mind. He doesn't need a perfect points night here. And again, a top 3 will do. That's all he needs. So keep your eyes on DeGroot just for another successful finish tonight.
Let's see if he'll go to the top of the board. It was Dylan Moskowitz that was actually the fastest in practice. And of course, that was drivers testing out their qualifying setups. DeGroot right now 8th out of the 8 drivers, and he's going to have trouble off of turn 2. That's going to be the trouble spot here tonight, especially based on what we saw in practice as well. A lot of drivers saying that after about a 10-15 lap run, the car just does not want to turn off that second corner.
I think you're being lenient. 10-15 lap run, that says that we've got a little bit of good racing to go before that. Some of the guys were complaining about it being worse earlier than that. They're talking about 7-8 laps into the run before that car starts to really get tight. So it's going to take a lot of tire management. I think the tires are going to be a big factor here tonight. They haven't been thus far this season. Will tonight be the difference?
I have to see as we're looking at Robert Maleska III, who last week at Michigan went coast to coast for the 3rd time this season, and swept the 2-mile racetracks with his most recent win at Auto Club. He's going to now go on to the board. 7th is where he will jump to. A lot of the drivers that were really fast in practice, all of a sudden we're not seeing the same amount of speed out of them here in qualifying.
Well, it's interesting to note that the difference between practice and qualifying is that practice, generally they have a race setup on board. Qualifying, they have a slightly different setup, a lot less fuel. You can see Maleska's just able to hug the bottom as he comes off of 3 and 4 on his qualifying run. That's because fresh tires, low-fueled car, he can do whatever he wants with it. It'll turn in a whole bunch better. He's managed to go back to the top, though, so that says that it's the second lap yet again that's going to be the factor for a lot of these drivers. Bronson Stafford's not going to set a time on his second lap.
Neither will Dylan Moskowitz in the 4. 18 1/1000ths is what Maleska has over Charles T. T was looking for his first pole on the season, and looks like he's going to come up just short. Looks like the rest of the drivers that could take time will not be taking time. Gail Brooks, Mike Tellier, and Matthew Rodriguez. So it looks like it is going to be Robert Maleska III picking up his 7th pole on the season in only 10 races, and we'll see if he'll be able to go pole to win for the 4th time this season.
Yeah, what a great job, too, by Robert Maleska. Small field here tonight, which is interesting for these guys as well. So, ultimately, there's a few names that are rejoining us. Jimmy Drynan's all of a sudden come out and shown some strength, and he's put himself right towards the front end of things. Keep your eyes on Bronson Stafford, slowest of the guys to set a time tonight. That is completely and utterly out of character for him. Something has gone wrong in a big way with his qualifying attempts. He has got to make his way through, and I think he's going to want to put an impression down early. The alternative strategy is he fuel saves, he gets on the back foot, he's very, very patient. He's got 2 different kinds of races that he can run tonight, and we'll be able to tell from the get-go which one he needs to get onto.
120 circuits here this evening at this 2-kilometer speedway. Here's a look at the starting lineup.
Wait. Did you just say 2 kilometers?
I involve everybody. I'll give you the English and I'll give you the metric length.
But you say English. England's actually on the metric system here, Seth. It's American.
American metric system.
Because I was like, I'm sitting over here. I'm like, oh, Seth cares. He loves me.
I do care. Charles Teed's going to be the guy on the outside of the front row. Henry Bennett, former winner. Jeff Hysong up there in the 4th spot. And Eric Peterson is going to complete the top 5. We ended up having 13 of the 16 drivers scheduled to roll off the grid take time here this evening. And I know that I put this whole myth out there last week, Scott, about the fact that back in Season 2, Nick DeGroot ended up winning this race, and he went on to win the championship. And last season, Maleska won this race. He went on to win the championship. I have since gone through and debunked the theory because I looked at the other races during the course of their championship seasons that Nick DeGroot and Robert Maleska III have won at. And I don't, off the top of my head, remember which track it was that they both had won at, but we did have a different winner this season at that track. So right now, we're not trending in the direction that I had as far as the whole conspiracy theory last week.
Okay, alright, so, I mean, you know, who knows? Who really knows? Yeah, I mean, it could be Gateway that decides things, though. The other race that we've already completed this season has come in such an early phase in the championship. This time it's in a later phase of the championship. But, Seth, before we go to green, it's a really good opportunity to first and foremost say, what state do you live in, and do you know a flower guy near you? I'm going to need to send you some flowers. Because B, happy birthday, my friend.
Thank you very much. Yeah, first broadcast calling as a 30-year-old. I've hit the 3-0.
Oh, you're kidding?
Yeah.
No way, because I turned 30 in March.
Well, there you go.
We're a lot closer to that. No wonder we get on so well.
We are. How about that?
Huh. Would have been at school together.
There you go. Only if one of us were a foreign exchange student.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I was younger than everyone else at my school because I was in the year ahead. So there you go. Huh. Huh. There you go. Weird things that you learn during broadcasts.
Exactly. I'm a little afraid to find out what we're going to find out next about each other. But anyway. Maleska getting ready to turn him loose here as that iRacing pace car makes the left-hand turn to pit road. Green flag in the air, and we are underway here under the lights at Gateway.
Keep your eyes on cars in the mid-pack as well. I think I see Matt Wagner immediately bubbling about, looking for track position. Stafford's been very patient. I don't think he got a strong restart here. He's just going to try and settle into his groove. In fact, Moskowitz has got to run on him at the background, so Stafford's going backwards.
We've also got a big battle here for second place. A couple of times Henry Bennett looks to the inside of Charles Teed. Almost got into him there as he pushed up off of turn 2. That's another thing that I heard from drivers here tonight. It's going to be very difficult to set up and complete a pass.
Well, the track's so tight, so to be able to get down there, you have to sort of try and get your nose down there early. And the other thing is, look at the gap that's immediately opened up between Maleska and Teed, just purely because those guys behind him are fighting so aggressively. I think Bennett's either going to get a run, which he has got now. He's down the inside. He should complete this pass this time by. And then I think Teed is just going to accept it, let it happen, and settle in. But Teed's got the run on the high side.
Yeah, battling back and going to hold him off at least for a couple more corners is Charles Teed. Bennett has to tuck back in line. Now he'll try going up a groove higher, maybe try and get a better entry into the corner. Drives right to the back and tries to cross him over. Might have been a little contact between the two. And here comes Peterson to take advantage.
Yeah, Peterson has just been there. He's been hunting. He's been waiting. There's going to be an opportunity that opens up for Peterson. But again, these guys have to work together. If they do not want to see Maleska just disappear up in the distance, they've got to work together right now. Catch up a little bit to Maleska, then go back at it.
Last season, Maleska, when he picked up
to the outside,
he led the most laps in that race. Nick DeGroot back in Season 1 did not lead the most laps en route to his victory. It was Alexander Van de Sot that led the most laps. That one, contact, and it's Bennett into the wall.
Yeah, Bennett's disappointed. I can hear it in his voice. He just come on the radio. He didn't say very much, but he said enough, and that's all that there needs to be. So he'll be disappointed with that. He's going to be downforce. This is such an important track. You cannot make contact at most tracks on the IndyCar schedule. This is one of the most important ones.
You've got 2 different degrees of banking here at Gateway. You've got 11 degrees down in turns 1 and 2, 9 degrees over in 3 and 4, and I was actually...
But it's still good! I'm wondering if T didn't get damage out of that.
He might have. The contact was to his, I believe,
oh!
right Peterson! Up and into the air! Barrel rolling down the front straightaway. Caution immediately flies as drivers scatter to avoid the flipping 36. Jimmy Drynan, the 99, was also collected up in it big time. Wow. It took no time for the 36 to catch air. And the question is, was that a case of Peterson not realizing he wasn't clear on Bennett? Or did Bennett just force his way in?
When he moved up, he was clear on my... again, okay, so something for a lot of people to have a look at is whenever you're a spectator in an iRacing server, it doesn't matter whether you're a driver, anything, what you see is always going to be slightly different to everyone else. So Bennett was actually not there yet, but Peterson moved up and across just as Bennett gets to him, which is why they make contact. So it was that I don't think that Peterson thought that Bennett had that much of a run, because as he gets the run, they're exiting the corner and he tries to just move straight back up as soon as they get onto the straight. There's nothing in that one. It's just a driver judgment error by both drivers. Having said that, Bennett can't go anywhere.
So the onboard there with the car that hit Peterson, that being Jimmy Drynan. Let's take another look at another driver that was just behind all of that, Matt Wagner in the 11. And just watch how that 36, he went completely vertical, 90 degrees vertical at one point there, and then kind of did a backflip before the contact between himself and the 99.
Oh man, that's such a rough accident because there's nothing in that. And like I said, this is just these guys just fighting it out. Everyone's fighting for track position. You said how difficult it is to complete a pass. That means that you have to fight for every little position. You cannot give something up, which is why these guys are being so aggressive. Henry Bennett lost a place early. He's trying to earn that spot back. That's why he's been so aggressive. And Peterson just wants to cover him off. Ultimately, both drivers have made a misjudgment. Bennett thinks, first and foremost, that he's got an overlap. Peterson doesn't think he has an overlap. That's all that is.
Now, Peterson does have a faster pair available to him, but as we saw, he was not able to drive that car back to pit road, so he's going to have to serve the tow time before he can even worry about taking that faster pair on, and he's already lost 2 laps to new race leader Matt Wagner, who along with Gale Brooks decided to stay out under this yellow flag. Jimmy Drynan was able to make it back to pit road, and he is now a faster pair in the hole as well, not even 10 laps into this race. Correction there on Gale Brooks, he has just now come to pit lane on this second lap of caution.
So a couple things here to note. First and foremost, whenever a caution gets called, it doubles the towing time that it takes to come back to pit road. Now, the caution was definitely called before Eric Peterson started towing, but it does not matter. Whatever the caution time, the towing time would have been on the green flag running, he would have doubled that as the instant the caution flag came out. Secondly, if he's towed back to pit lane and his fast repair wasn't checked, most of these drivers will uncheck their fast repairs very early on in the race, because if they leave them checked, it can accidentally take them when they have no damage. So they uncheck it. If you tow or you go over the fence or something, basically the towing time starts and that fast repair is not checked, it will not use it when you get back into your pit stall. So therefore, if he is done or he's got too much damage on his car, that's it. His race is over. There's nothing he can do. Oh, his car's just gotten him back in the pit lane. He did get the fast repair, so it was checked before he towed. So he's okay.
Still a tough break there for Eric Peterson, and the fact that he's going to be at least a couple of laps down here as we get ready to go back green. Peterson coming into this race 8th in the point standings, been a mainstay up in the top 10 week after week. Matt Wagner leads us back to green. Everybody else came down pit road, I'm assuming for the most part just to top off the fuel tank, but Wagner feels the track position is important, and based on what we just saw there in that battle up inside the top 5, I'd be inclined to agree with him.
Yeah, and just immediately have a look at the gap that he's been able to push out over Maleska as well. Like, that says to me that you want that clear... We always talk about it in this series. You want the clear wing to your nose, but Maleska was just able to bolt when he was out on his own. So, to be perfectly honest with you, I think this is a great call by Wagner. I'm actually surprised more cars didn't make the same call.
We saw Gale Brooks stay out with Wagner, but then pitted on the second lap and subsequently restarts back in 13th. Had a good battle here just for a moment between Bronson Stafford, Nick DeGroot, Benjamin Combs. Now Combs going to take a look at the inside for 7th on the 89, and that is Jim Herrick, high, wide, and handsome around the top, trying to pick up a position on Dylan Moskowitz, who might force the issue 3 wide down the front straightaway.
Well, Bronson Stafford got very loose, I think it was on the... No, sorry, it wasn't Bronson Stafford. I think it was whoever the car was on the low line. They got very loose. They weren't happy. I think they clipped a bit of the curb and it just completely utterly unsettled the car. They had to get out of the throttle.
I mentioned about the fact that Wagner and DeGroot coming into this race as former winners, but if you're looking at a driver that's been very consistent at Gateway, look no further than the third place car of Charles Teed, back-to-back top 6s in his 2 starts here.
And that's important, especially with a difficult racetrack like we're seeing around here. I think Jim Herrick, Dylan Moskowitz is falling back aggressively. He might have damage of some sort. Either that or he's just being patient. He recognizes, hey, this isn't really worth the fight right now. I'm just going to watch a few of these guys. I'm just going to save some fuel. I'm going to try and extend this run as far as I can. Bennett's already up a bunch of places on this restart. Yeah, consistency is going to be a huge factor here tonight, Seth. Oh, big contact to 1!
And that's Bennett as he hits hard into the outside barrier.
He's burned his fast repair, I think.
No, he's not. I actually was just about to make that point that he's actually out there without taking the fast repair under the last yellow. And I was actually going to ask you, with the damage he had sustained from the first incident, how that would affect him. Well, that's kind of a moot point now because he'll be coming to pit road, taking on that fast repair, and another driver, another guy that we would expect to be running up at the front consistently, less than 20 laps in, going to have to burn a fast repair here at Gateway.
Well, I was thinking about with his first incident, his rear wing wasn't damaged. He was missing his engine cover, and the front wing, that can be replaced, so that's totally fine. So, admittedly, he could have gotten away with it after that first one. He showed that he still had pace. This time, he won't have a choice because the entire rear wing structure is missing, and that is so important to these cars around here.
And I've taken another look here, but I think we may have had an occasion of gap whack here, Scott. Just did not look like that right front of Jimmy Drynan was really up against the left rear of Henry Bennett, but you could clearly see space, and yet the contact was made between the two.
We'll have to have a look at this one a little bit closer. Just misunderstanding. Yeah.
That car didn't come back down the racing surface, though, because there were about 3 other drivers that came into view at full speed that could have been collected up as well.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a good decision. Sorry, good decision. Gap whack, yes, but the smallest amount of gap whack, maybe. Is Bennett staying out? I think Henry Bennett's staying out. He'd be conscious he has no rear wing.
Well, he did not come down pit road that time, and I believe pit road was open.
Well, pit road was open because a bunch of cars did come down to top off on fuel again. Was Matt Wagner among those?
Yes, he was, along with Nick DeGroot, Gale Brooks, Dylan Moskowitz, Mike Tellier, and Matthew Rodriguez. This caution's going to aid Eric Peterson. He'll get one of his 2 laps back, so now he'll be -1. If we get another yellow flag and he's not involved, he'll be back on the lead lap.
So he's got the patience game to play. I mean, we talk about the Zachary Woods. Look, Zachary Woods is such an inspirational story for what he was able to do at Pocono a few weeks ago in the Backfire Sim Racing Cup. I enjoyed that race so thoroughly from his side of view that anytime there's an underdog story coming from multiple laps down, they're woodsing it.
I love that term. I love that. That's another term we got to coin.
Oh my god, we've got gap whack, we've got creamy like a milkshake, and we've got woodsing it.
Perfect.
That's it. The Holy Trinity.
That's exactly what it is. The Holy Trinity. Well, while these guys are under the yellow, a little bit of statistics in terms of racetrack.
We go from the Holy Trinity just get the crystal
Easy for
ball
you
out,
to
Seth.
say.
Just get the crystal ball out.
Anyway, here at Gateway, in the last 2 races, we ended up having a field of 21 back in Season 2. We saw 6 cautions during the course of that race. We had 26 cars take the green flag here 1 season ago and saw the caution out 11 times in that one. Here tonight, 16 drivers in the field, only 20 laps in, and we've already seen our second caution of the evening. You got to wonder if this is setting a trend, if tonight it may not be as much a race about strategy, but more a race of survival for these drivers, because, as mentioned, Eric Peterson, Henry Bennett, these are 2 guys that were up inside the top 5 early on in this one, both of them badly damaged. Jimmy Drynan a faster pair in as well, and about the Henry Bennett car, he did just come to pit road. He didn't take on a faster pair again.
He's hanging on to it. It's literally all that can be happening. He's literally just going, you know what? It's not worth it. It's not worth it. This is going to continue. There's going to be more issues. I can handle that. Caution's going to be strung so close together. Like you said, we're less than 20 laps in, so we've got 6 rounds of that. That says to me that we're going to have 12 cautions each tonight, based upon those statistics. It'll be less than that. I'm saying we're going to end up with about 7. Is that lucky 7 or unlucky 7? Yeah.
Depends on where you finish here tonight. if you're in the race winner of the top 5, it's a lucky 7. If you finish outside the top 10, it's an unlucky 7.
Peterson's got a job to do here on this restart. It's, again, just continue to look after the car. He's done everything he needs to so far. Admittedly, on the last restart, though, he was still on his way out of pit lane as they went green, so he wasn't quite up to speed, and he was about half to 3/4 of a lap down on the pack. So this time he's got a big job to do. I think he just needs to just trail off somewhere to 1 second to 2 seconds behind this pack, save as much fuel as he possibly can, and just look after the nose of that car. Make sure that when the caution does come, that he's in a great position with a perfectly aligned car, and everything will come up for Peterson.
Getting ready for the green flag to come back out on lap number 20. Pole sitter Maleska III brings us back to the green over Teed, Hysong, Brooks, and Bronson Stafford. All 16 cars that started this race taking this green flag for the second restart. 15 on the lead lap. Peterson, the only car 1 lap down, as the battle right now looks like it's going to be back just outside the top 5. Benjamin Combs, Jim Herrick, Jimmy Drynan, and Bronson Stafford. That's where it's all happening for the moment in battles for position, as the top 4 have gotten themselves pretty well single-filed and stringed out.
Interesting to see. Obviously, we've seen a couple cautions right close together. So right now, I think this is a good opportunity for the drivers to sort of settle themselves down and sort of find that, okay, what can I fight? What can't I fight? You know, we've had a little bit of that, and then the field's sort of been reset and condensed. So it wouldn't surprise me to see maybe a 20-lap green flag run here, sort of extend things a little bit further and settle down into the race.
Keep an eye on that 99 of Jimmy Drynan, because just based on the amount of banking these drivers have here tonight, reminds me a lot of when we had the debut race at New Hampshire earlier on this season. And Jimmy Drynan was one of those guys that seemed to always carry just a little bit too much speed into the corner, would run into the back of drivers. We've already seen him make contact here today with Henry Bennett, so you got to wonder if maybe be a little bit of deja vu here this evening.
Well, I mean, he's quick. He's definitely quick enough, and he feels like he's got pace. He feels like he's got the ability to make some moves and look after that car. And speaking of Henry Bennett, he's already passed Matt Wagner down the inside of Wagner.
He is working his way up towards the front. He is currently in the 9th position, actually now 10th, as Wagner takes the spot back. Looking here at a 3-way battle for 5th. That's Bronson Stafford, Benjamin Combs, and Jim Herrick. Stafford's the only driver right now up inside the top 5 that started this race from outside of the top 10. It's interesting, in the last 2 Gateway races, 2 drivers from outside the top 10 finished up inside the top 5 in back-to-back seasons.
Yeah, and look, I mean, Stafford's a new driver to this league and this season as well, so he's trying to make a name for himself. He hasn't been as successful as he would have liked. He's not had the races that he would have liked. And I was talking to him off broadcast a couple times over the last couple of weeks. He thinks it's something to do with us talking about him, Seth. So I'm sorry, mate, but you're gonna have to turn the camera away.
All right, so I'll have to give him the Eric Schaus treatment from last season, where I don't believe that he exists in the field. Okay, got it.
Yeah, you got it. That's it. That's how Stafford wants to be treated.
All right, so Benjamin Combs right now not battling anybody. He does have Jimmy Drynan in his rearview mirror.
Oh, no.
With Jim Herrick a couple of car lengths behind. And
is that the Jaws music I just heard?
Ooh, I think it could be. It could be the Jaws music.
Okay, look, I'll tell you what the drivers were saying after the New Hampshire race. They were saying that Dryden's a new driver to this league, and he's driving a little bit too aggressive than he can back up. And I think you hit on a few things. He took out a lot of cars and not necessarily he took out a lot of cars, but he made contact with a lot of cars. Taking out's the wrong term because that implies that he's doing it intentionally. It was very unintentional. You could just tell that he was just sort of in a little bit over his head and he was pushing the car. I wouldn't say that he's a bad driver. Jimmy Dryden's definitely got skill and he showed that so far. What he has showed is his temperament, and his temperament is to drive the car a little bit further than he can handle and squeeze guys a little bit tighter than there's room to do. So he's a driver that I think is still finding his ground, and the area around his car is still a little bit uncertain to him. This is a good opportunity for him tonight to change that outlook and change that appearance of himself. And he's already turned Henry Bennett, so Bennett's coming up towards him as well. So if there's going to be payback, it'll be the next couple laps.
Dryden making another pass there. We saw Jim Herrick actually run the extreme high line there through 1 and 2 and actually made it work.
Look at this bank of cars.
Hold off Benjamin Combs in his rearview mirrors, so you got to wonder if drivers will take notice of that. Bennett actually also ran that high line there through 1 and 2 that last time.
Yeah, I don't think Bennett was looking for the overtake though, because Combs came down a fair way and then Combs tried to drift up on the exit. Cars are getting a little bit tight now, so Bennett's got to be a little bit careful with taking that high line and looking for the pass. But ultimately what we're seeing is that there's a cork in the bottle in the two separate packs. Right now it's Benjamin Combs as the cork in this second pack of 4 cars, but he's also got the speed to run with the cars ahead, and Bronson Stafford's the cork in the bottle of the pack ahead. Then you've also got the fact that when cars attempt to overtake each other, they slow each other down. So what happened there was Benjamin Combs was a little bit slower because Bennett was trying to put a pass on him, had to give him a little bit more room than he would have liked to, slowed himself down a little bit. Then as soon as he got free again, charged back on. Yeah, great pass by Dryden on Stafford. That was awesome.
And there was some contact, near contact there between Benjamin Combs and Jim Herrick, who pushes up into Henry Bennett. Man, that 007 gets no love when he's up there on the top side, but and again, what we were talking about here before we even took the green flag about drivers saying that on the long run, car wants to push up, you're kind of running that risk when you go around the outside of somebody.
Well, it's also a narrow track, and it's one of those tracks whereby the track naturally elevates you towards the top side at the back end of the corners as well. Especially with the way that the banking's laid out in 1 and 2, that's very, very natural for the cars to do that, and I think he's just going to time his passes a lot better. That's all it is.
My goodness, this might as well be a short track here tonight with the contact in exchange. That time you had Bronson Stafford with a little bit of contact with Jimmy Dryden, sent him up a couple of grooves in 1 and 2.
Oof, big oof. Yeah, look, I mean, it's not easy. It's going to be difficult, so we'll see what these guys can do. Ultimately, right now, they've got to be respectful of each other. And remember what I said, we needed a 20-lap green flag run here just to settle everyone down. Everyone's reading things very, very well. Jimmy Dryden, again, I'll circle in and I'll focus in a little bit on him because this is a driver that I said I wanted to see improve. I think he has. He's definitely improved. It's still not where I want it to be as he throws a slide job on Benjamin Combs. And Bennett's going to take full advantage.
Gonna try and get 2.
Oh, he tries to squeeze him. He tries to squeeze him. Dryden did not want to give the space.
And you got Nick DeGroot, who's actually been following Henry Bennett. It's almost kind of like been watching a 2-car tandem through the field with Bennett and DeGroot. They've worked their way from the back to front. The Bronson Stafford off the nose of Jimmy Dryden, flies into the air off of turn 2. Caution's going to come out again.
Stafford was pissed about that. He was not happy. Immediately on the radio, and there was emotion in his voice. He was very, very unhappy with the way that pass was handled.
Let's take a look here at what happened, and yeah, I saw it happen live. That wasn't even really a pass, to be honest. He wasn't even up even alongside of the 61 was Jimmy Dryden. We'll take another angle at this here as they went into 1 and 2. Dryden on the bottom, Stafford on the top, and there's the contact. Again, oh, well, I was going to say fortunate that nobody else involved, but Jim Herrick in the 40 got a big, big piece. That's what actually sent the 61 even more airborne than he initially was.
Man, crystal ball out this time? So you haven't got the crystal ball. Okay, so what actually caused that? It actually happens back down in 3 and 4. I just watched Bronson Stafford's approach through 3 and 4 because I noticed he was slow again. He caught the curbing right on the low line on the very, very exit. He saved it, which checks him up because he did have about a second gap back to these guys. That second got eaten up instantaneously through one mistake. And then because Dryden had a run, he had to take it somewhere. He had so much of a run that he had to get to the low side. The car just gets tight. It forces his way up. But if at the end of the day, this is something we were talking about in a previous broadcast as well, that Stafford has to blame himself for that one. Because if Stafford does not make the mistake in 3 and 4, that never happens.
Kind of reminds me, I know obviously it's not like the 2-mile tracks we were at previously this season, last week at Auto Club, season opener in Michigan, but...
Well, that's because it's a 2-kilometer track, Steph.
Well, I know that, but I mean, like, in terms of what we've been seeing here tonight, it really seems like this is a momentum track. You lose that momentum, you pay the price. Somebody's going to be on your back bumper ready to make the move if you make a mistake.
Yeah, 100%. And the other issue, it gets exacerbated because we've had this group of 8 cars running, nose to tail, side by side for all of that run there. So ultimately, it's difficult. It is difficult. And any single, if you make a mistake and you don't touch, say, the curbing structure, or you don't get too close to the wall and you have to aggressively roll out, you might lose enough of you basically create a small run for somebody. You create a very, very small run. But if you make a mistake to the elevation that Bronson made his mistake there, because that was a huge mistake. The car was sideways. He had to roll right out of the throttle and catch it. If he didn't catch it, that was a caution for sure, because the car was just at that aggressive at an angle. So he's done a great job to catch it. Unfortunately, what that's done is that's given the cars behind such a huge run. Now, Dryden's got a huge angry pack immediately behind him. He's got to take that somewhere, because he can't just check up, and he's got enough of a run, and he's there by corner entry. He just doesn't respect the amount that he's going to drift up. So, yes, look, Bronson Stafford can definitely be upset with the way that the driver behavior down in turn 1 is handled. Yes, 100%, that is a legitimate concern. But at the end of the day, in terms of a driver's mentality, you have to take that back to your mistake in 3 and 4. You can't just go, oh, look, this guy's, I'm unlucky. I've been involved in something like this. I've made a mistake that's caused this to happen. So therefore, I know that I'm partially at fault for that.
Well, Stafford has taken on his faster pair, still remains on the lead lap, and this caution now puts Eric Peterson back on the lead lap as well. So all 16 drivers will be taking the green flag on the same lap as leader Henry Bennett, who about 30 laps ago we saw involved in that incident with Eric Peterson off of turn 4. He's now out in front showing the way here. Bennett trying to pick up his 3rd win on the season after previous victories at Road America and a couple of weeks ago at the Homestead Miami Speedway.
Yeah, so Bennett's got a huge responsibility here to now lead this. I think Bennett saw everyone pitting and went, you guys are crazy. I would not be doing that in this circumstance, because if you have a look at the risk that Bennett's had to take so far throughout this race, the risks have been so damn high. He's had to put that nose where he doesn't want to put the nose. And Nick DeGroot's just been following along, just going, look, you make the risks, I get the reward, right? So DeGroot hasn't had as risky a race as Henry Bennett. I think the risk just got to a level where it was just way, way too high for what he was going to get out of it, and he just went, you know what, there's pitting here, I get fresh tires, I'm out in the lead, well, I'm still buried in traffic, and I've got no advantage to all the cars around me. Let's create an advantage by building that track margin. He might let a couple guys go here on the restart, sorry, excuse me, Seth. But he's also got the pace to lead from the front. I had the feeling he was actually hunting down Maleska, so there's an opportunity for him here as well.
To be closing in on 80 laps to go, be 81 to go here at the start-finish line when Bennett gets us back under the green flag. Maleska the third, Haisong Teed, and Jim Brooks are going to be the top 5. There's going to be about 19 laps difference in the Firestones on the 007 to the rest of the competition behind him, but it certainly seemed tonight the safest place to be on the racetrack is out in front in that clean air. We'll see what happens here with Bennett, who's still dealing with the damage he sustained from 2 previous cautions as the green flag back in the air, gets himself a decent restart and going to open up about 2-3 car lengths over Maleska before he even gets to turn 1.
Yeah, and remember, he's now going to have fresh air. Yes, slightly worn tires, lower fuel levels, all of that, but he is going to have the fresh air, and that might be the advantage that he really needs to really get his night back on track.
This is the first time that Henry Bennett has taken to Gateway in the 3 previous seasons, including tonight. Nick DeGroot was a little surprised with Bennett staying out that DeGroot didn't kind of played the same strategy as he was following Henry Bennett up through the field, but he came to pit road and now trying to make his way up into the top 5. He just got around Jimmy Drynan, now trying to get up to the 51 of Jim Brooks for that 5th position.
Yeah, but DeGroot and his team, they've got a lot of strategies. They play their cards very, very close to their chest, and they're intelligent enough to be able to do so. So I think that they're doing something here. Whatever they're doing, it's different to everyone else, but they've got something in the back of their minds that they know is going to work better than their competition.
Wow, Maleska really tight there through 1 and 2 as he dove in deep on Henry Bennett for the top position, could not get back to the throttle, lost a ton of ground on the race leader.
Yes, that's obviously an issue. Look at the line differential that time through 3 and 4 as well. He recognized that the air was so bad on his car. He's got to run a different line. He's got to do something different. He can't just follow. See, immediately, he sees Bennett running that middle line, gets his nose down underneath so he gets that fresh air.
His teammate Jeff Highsong behind him in the 3rd position. About 0.3 of a second off of his back bumper. Gained some ground there through 3 and 4, though. Look at the run he's going to get here coming to the start-finish line. Looks to the inside, headed for 1.
Yeah, this should be enough to get this move done, too. Bennett's going to let it happen, I think. Yeah, Bennett recognizes that he just cannot fight this battle. Remember what I said? I expect Bennett to let 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 cars go on this restart. Here's the first of those.
Now Bennett going to try and get the run back up on the top side there, going through 3 and 4. Stayed alongside that right rear for about a couple of corners and then lost ground. Now he's going to try the top side again. And going back to Nick DeGroot, let's talk about the point situation. We mentioned that Rick Ravon is not in the field here tonight. DeGroot more than likely would take the points lead with a solid outing tonight. So is he just looking for a consistent run, or is he kind of playing strategy here, kind of playing his cards close to the chest and then going to pounce near the end? Because bear in mind, he's only 15 points over Maleska and only 26 points over Henry Bennett, who could make huge points gains tonight if they finish where they are.
Well, have a look at Nick DeGroot as well. Charles Teets just let him on by, so he's on the ascendancy. He recognizes that he's got an opportunity here as well. So I would definitely expect, I think in DeGroot's mind, without Ravon in the field, I think that he knows that there is a podium here that goes to the begging. Anything less won't be a good enough night for him in terms of where he feels he should be within the field. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, point standings, you've got to have that play back into your mind. Because if you have a horrid time trying to go for that 3rd place spot, all of a sudden, you're playing Maleska back into the championship. Maleska was out of this thing early on. All of a sudden, 1-2 back-to-back wins would start to play him back into that margin. So you've got to minimize the gates.
Things are really close amongst the top 6 in the point stands as well. 62 points from Rick Ravon back to Bronson Stafford. Also include Matt Wagner there inside of that top 6. We've seen him lead a couple of laps tonight right now, running back in the 9th position. This is the battle for 2nd. Nick DeGroot to the inside of Henry Bennett, who pinches him down just a little bit there through 3 and 4. They almost made a bit of contact there through the center of the corner.
Yeah, and that's, again, this is hard but fair racing. These guys have done this week in, week out. They know exactly what they can and can't do with these cars. Bennett knew that he was being a little bit cheeky there. DeGroot knew he was going to try and be cheeky with him, but he had to send it anyway. And that's just respect from both of those guys.
And that's a couple of teammates there as well out of factory-backed motorsports. With DeGroot having to back out, that now brings the 4th place battle onto his back door. Charles T and Jeff Highsong, as T gets a little squirrely off of 4. Highsong crosses him over to the inside.
I was actually about to say a little bit earlier on, have a look at the night Jeff Highsong's having. This is a huge overperform from him. He's having a great night out. I mean, you know, Jimmy Drynan's had issues and he's had contact, but I was actually going to say that Drynan's actually really over and above performing him. If he could just get a few of those little issues out of the way, he would have actually had a really strong finish here tonight.
Jeff Highsong, only 1 former start here at Gateway. That was last season where he finished in the 16th position. Leaps and bounds above that here tonight as he's the last car inside of the top 5. Looking back at a couple of Jims, Jim Brook in the 51 and Jim Herrick in the 40, trying to reel him in for that spot.
Yeah, have a look as well. League guys are actually dealing with lap traffic, which is Jimmy Drynan. So unfortunately, his night's gone from bad to worse, and he's had to get right out of it. I think he's got enough damage now, because remember, he's taken that fast repair, that's his car, and that's his night basically done, which is unfortunate. Like I said, the guy's got potential. He just needs to clean up some of those minor issues, and we'll see him up at the front competing for sure.
Well, actually, for Jimmy Drynan, yeah, he's taken on that fast repair, which was just 5 laps ago. Up to that point, he had not utilized his fast repair, made the unscheduled pit stop. about 5 laps ago, came down, took the faster pair, returned to the track, but 2 laps down.
Okay, that explains a lot more. Yeah, that's interesting. And Matt Rodriguez is taken to the garage area now, I believe, as well.
Yeah, currently sitting on pit road is the 57, multiple laps down. Not officially out of this race at this point, but 4 laps down to the race leader, Maleska III, and going to lose a 5th here as the 91 comes around, hit the start-finish line. Teammates continue to battle for 2nd place, though. Nose to tail, Henry Bennett, Nick DeGroot. And now Charles Teed enters into the mix.
These guys will have a grin from ear to ear as well. They want to race it out. They both know that they're of a very similar sort of skill level, so they're just out here having an absolute blast, and unfortunately for us, they get to do it out on the racetrack as well, so there'll be no love lost between these teammates. What they will do is they'll prevent contact between them at any cost, but they'll fight it out as hard as they possibly can. Once the group probably gets around Bennett, you'll see Bennett seed. He'll probably just defend his rear bumper a little bit, try and protect him from Charles Teed a little bit more, because I think DeGroot's definitely the faster of the two.
Now I'm looking at a couple of these drivers back here in the latter half of the top 10.
Wait, Bennett's, I think, coming to the pit road. Yeah, Bennett's coming to pit road.
And indeed he is. 37 laps he's been out there. Obviously stayed out under the last caution, and so I would assume this is a regularly scheduled pit stop for him. Gives us an idea of maybe just how far these drivers can stretch it on a tank of fuel, and running the risk of that early track position on the restart to now falling at least 1 lap down to the race leader. Last thing he wants to see now is a caution come out. He would like to see this thing completely cycle back around.
Well, I mean, it also depends where he pops back out in terms of traffic, because if he pops back out on a clean section of the track, this is the best possible thing that can happen for his night. However, if he pops back out in a heavily congested section of the track, he's not going to get any leeway. Actually, I think he is. He's going to pop out in between the tail end of the field and the leader. So he's going to have complete and utter clean track. And the other cool part about this is in his rear view relative, he's also going to know exactly where these guys are.
So if we calculate, let's say about 3, 4, we'll be generous and say 5 laps under pacing there. Under that last caution, we're looking somewhere in the range of about maybe 32 to 35 laps that a driver can possibly make it on a tank of fuel. If that's the case, some of these guys like Maleska, DeGroot, Charles Teed, we're only about 14, 15 laps away from when they're going to have to pit under green.
Yeah, and that's why I said I actually really don't mind this from Henry Bennett either. Obviously, the guy's out of gas. He has to pit, right? But I think the strategy works perfectly because he goes from being 7th, 8th, 9th, boxed in that section of traffic, to he's out of traffic, out all clear on his own. Caution comes out. Obviously, things don't go his way. That's just racing. But at the end of the day, I think this is the perfect strategy. And the other side of the coin is this plays him into a pit window. If we go green from here to the end, he's in a perfect little pit window as well.
That's a good point. Maybe that was in the back of his mind as to why he didn't pit under that last yellow flag. Bronson Stafford and Eric Peterson, they've now worked their way up to 7th and 8th, but bear in mind these are 2 drivers that ran into early issues, are already a faster pair in the hole, so just now reaching the halfway of this point, I mean, when is it go time for these guys? Because the last thing you want to do is, at this point in the race, with still half of the race in front of you, is to take yourself completely out of this thing.
Yeah, so patience. First and foremost, patience. Make sure that you're setting yourself up. There's a couple of fuel stops and whatnot here to go, so make sure that you're going to get yourselves to those fuel stops. There's nothing that you can do right now that's going to hugely impact your runs. It's so difficult to overtake. Maybe save some fuel, maybe just sit on a guy's rear bumper. Nick DeGroot needs to get aggressive, needs to start pushing, needs to see if he can close down this gap to Maleska, because it's out to about 3 seconds now. That's a huge margin. Sorry, it's actually only 2 seconds. My timing software is lying to me. So it's a bit over 2 seconds. If he can get that back down to 1.5 seconds, that's a win for the remainder of this stint for him. That's a win for Charles Teed, who's following behind him as well. Alternatively, they need to keep their eyes on where Henry Bennett is on track. They need to make sure that Henry Bennett's not gaining time to them. If he's losing time, they're happy with that. Henry Bennett will be quicker towards the back end of the fuel stint again because he'll have a lot less fuel on board. But Henry Bennett has fresher tires right now, so it's very important for Henry Bennett to get on with the job. Ultimately, I think we're in a window of the race where a few guys are playing fuel, a few guys are going balls to the wall. They're going for real pace and performance out of their car, and we're going to be in the next 10 or so laps that's sort of going to break itself down. I've got my eyes peeled on Matt Wagner. If anyone's fuel saving out of this bunch, it'll probably be Wagner.
Well, you got your eyes peeled on Wagner. You probably saw him brush the wall there out of turn 4 as there's a big wad of cars from 4th place back to 7th. Hysong, Brooks, Wagner, and Stafford throw a blanket over them as they're trying to battle for the final spots inside the top 5.
Yeah, and the other thing is, Stafford will probably be saving as well, but Stafford would rather have the track position in the back of my mind. Just from the way that he's played his races recently, that's the way that he prefers to go. Right now, there's no real fuel concerns. It's pretty much an even run. It's about basically the amount of time you're going to spend on pit road for that final stop is about the only difference that you're going to make. And you know what? Stafford says, hey, I'm getting caught up under here. The undercut is on.
Keep an eye on pit road. Maleska the third from the race lead just ducked onto pit lane. 28 laps into this run. Bronson Stafford now down to the attention of his crew. So the green flag pit stops begin. And this is a lot earlier than I had actually projected of drivers making these green flag pit stops.
I'm wondering if those guys weren't fuel saving at all, because if you actually have a look at the margin that Maleska was trying to open up back to the Groot and Teed, he opened up a huge margin. So I'm wondering whether or not De Groot recognized that he wasn't actually going to be able to beat Bennett on pace, and he knew that Bennett's strategy was compromised. So he was just sitting there. He was showing a little bit of pace because he also needs to compromise. Whilst ever he throws a move or positions the car around, he can turn the wicker back up on the car. He can go for that extra little performance if he needs it. But I think he was doing that just to slow Henry Bennett down a little bit, because whenever you're attempting an overtake, neither of you gets the optimal line, right? So, look, I think Maleska was potentially coming up on traffic as well, and he was thinking about whether or not that's going to impact his run. There's a lot of stories here tonight. They're going to come and play themselves back into this. Maleska's been overtaken by Bennett.
Yes, I was just
2 seconds.
Point that out. Yeah, Bennett has leapfrogged the 91, so when things cycle around, it should be Bennett back to the race lead. But again, remember, he's off sequence. Wagner in the 11 now hitting pit road, and people might have been seeing some smoke there in turn 4. That's actually some drivers, when they come to pit road, they're locking up the tires and creating that tire smoke. It's not a car wrecking out of turn 4.
Yeah, so the pit lane speed here is 45 miles an hour. Very, very slow. But it is because it's such a short track as well, and the speeds are a little bit lower, so it plays it out, and it's consistent for everyone. So ultimately, if it was safe to set pit road speed at 100 mile an hour, you could do that, but it's not safe to do that, so that's why people don't do it.
Charles Teed on pit road in the 50 machine, giving up then second position was where he was running. Still waiting for Nick DeGroot to come down pit lane. Jeff Hysong, Jim Brooks, Dylan Moskowitz, and Jim Herrick are now your top 5 as they will continue to stay out. Looks like Benjamin Combs may be heading for pit road this time in the 77.
Can't believe DeGroot is the furthest up that's on the best pit lane strategy as well. I've seen him come to pit lane multiple times on the same caution period. I get the feeling he's in this time. Yeah, he's in this time. So he is concerned about fuel and fuel mileage. This is about getting himself as far ahead as he possibly can. The tire undercut is absolutely massive here. I think he may have gotten a penalty. He was a mile past the cones before he stopped braking.
Hysong coming down pit road as well, and we saw there when DeGroot was coming down pit lane, one of the things these drivers really have to deal with is they have to use that access road entering into turn 3, and you'll notice right when they hit the start of that access road, the car bounces in the air. There's a big bump there that these drivers have to traverse over, and especially with the car being light with the low fuel capacity near the end of a run, you've got to make sure you keep that thing pointed in the right direction because it could possibly spin out.
Yeah, and again, they don't have the benefit of downforce, because the faster you go, the more downforce, the more grip you're creating. The slower you're going, you don't get that advantage. So pit road here is a big implication. I've also seen under caution drivers complaining about pit road and getting black flags for passing cars under yellow. The reason that is pit road is actually a lot shorter than the main racetrack. So passing the pace car, we're in a truck league here, I want to say 2 months ago now, and the leader who basically run the whole race out in front, he was definitely the best in the field, he got himself a black flag for passing the pace car on pit lane entry under a caution. That is a major, major factor. If we get another caution, these guys cannot afford to get a penalty by passing before that cone.
Henry Bennett's going to inherit the lead here with Brooks, Herrick, actually both the Brooks, Jim and Gale, Jim Herrick and Mike Tellier, all coming to pit road on the same lap. Bennett's got the lead, but for how long? Because there you see, right in the same camera shot, Maleska the third trying to reel him in. There's 9 laps difference on the tires between these two after Bennett was way off sequence from the rest of the field.
Yeah, oh, caution's out!
And
That
it might
is...
be Benjamin Combs. It is. He's facing the wrong way out of turn 4 and on the start of the front stretch.
What has happened there? That is an awkward play. It's all on his own, too. So you remember how I said Bronson Stafford had issues coming off of 3 and 4? He caught the curbing? This is exactly what Benjamin Combs has done as well. I think he's just barely brushed it, by the way, as well. No, he got a fair chunk of it. Nearly saves it, goes around. He tows it back to pit lane. There was no damage to his car whatsoever, but the field was coming.
Yep, never hit the wall on the outside or inside, but could not pull it back up onto the racetrack to get it turned around. So that's a tough break for him. However,
I do want to say a shout out. I do want to say a shout out to him because he's taken the best action for the integrity of the race. If he just fires that car around straight back out into traffic, in the real world, somebody would die, right? Because those cars are coming through there at such a high amount of speed. He'd have to wait for the whole field to go past. Now, he hasn't done that. He hasn't parked himself there because he's going to be losing time as well. What he's done is towed it immediately. As soon as he recognized he was going to lose a lap, he tows it so that he's going to lose minimal time towing it back to pit lane. He can probably get that car flicked back around, but he's going to have to wait for the whole field to file past whilst catching the face car. This is actually a very smart decision, and this is what we prefer. I've just picked up a whole bunch of race control gigs and whatnot. This is what we prefer to see drivers doing. He's gone, I'm in a compromising position. I'm sacrificing my race for the integrity of everybody's races. This is a perfect driver. A really, really smart decision to make. It's not easy because he sacrifices a lot here personally for everyone else's gain.
And we saw with the onboard there, if he had then immediately after his spin pulled up the racetrack, the drivers he would have hit were our race leaders. That was Bennett and Maleska that went on by him after his spin came to a stop there out of turn 4. So yeah, absolutely good call there on the part of Benjamin Combs, and as pointed out, though, it is going to cost him. He's currently 3 laps down and has not completed his tow at this point. It should give the lucky dog, I believe, to potentially Matthew Rodriguez, who is back out on the racetrack, but he's 26 laps down. Jimmy Drynan is not back on the racetrack.
Okay, you say Matthew Rodriguez, who's back out on the racetrack. He's actually parked in the infield on pit lane entry at this point in time.
Okay. Well, he's coasting now. He's coming back down pit road. So.
Oh, Matt. You try your hardest, my friend.
So this is interesting because I thought with this caution coming out and talking about the difference in tires between Bennett and Maleska that maybe Bennett under caution might take the opportunity to come down pit lane. But nope, he's deciding to stay out still. Maleska and DeGroot, Teed, Wagner, didn't expect any of them to come down pit road because those guys had just recently been on pit lane under green flag conditions. But does this caution now kind of paint Henry Bennett into a bit of a corner? Because I'm sure he would have been one of those guys that would have liked to have seen this thing go green to the end.
This is difficult. This is a difficult situation, I'm not going to lie. If this goes green to the end, because we've had so much green flag running here, we've got, what, we're going to have 40 laps to the end. I think it's going to be a one-stop race no matter what happens. So I think by Bennett staying out, he recognizes that he had the track position advantage. None of the guys that are actually behind him opted to take a pit under this caution either because of all recently been the major factor here for Bennett is that this nullifies any advantage he had. So this is both a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing if he came down pit road because he gets a free pit stop. If he didn't come down pit road, he just lost all the advantage that he made up through his pit stop cycle. So look, I think we see him lose a couple spots under green flag running here when we get back to green. But I think this actually really neutralizes everyone's strategy, and he's definitely a one-stop to home situation from here.
Took the opportunity to check our YouTube chat. Appreciate everybody that's tuning in and what somebody that is watching our broadcast here tonight.
No!
Unfortunately has been hit with the COVID epidemic in the hospital. Rick, we're thinking of you. We appreciate you tuning in. We hope you get back on track soon, buddy.
For those of you who don't know, Rick Ravon's not just leading the series. I think he's just one of the most bang-up guys in the league. He's so fun to chat to, and his wife is so lovely. So a shout-out to Mr. Ravon, and also a shout-out to his family as well, because he's got such a lovely family. I hope that we get to hear from you and your wife. She's invited back to the commentary box, by the way, as soon as possible.
Can't wait to hear him mispronounce Scott's name again. Anyway, yes. Henry Bennett gets ready to put us back on the green flag one more time. It's going to be closing on 40 laps to go here. These drivers still have one more pit stop in their future. For Bennett, it'd be sooner than the rest, as he's going to try and edge out as much of a gap as he can between himself and Maleska III, who we saw under that last run coming to that caution, seems to be a lot faster in terms of lap times.
Yeah, so Maleska's definitely got the pace here, which is what's got me worried for Bennett. How long it's going to be, this is important for Bennett. He has to hold up Maleska for as long as he possibly can, because when he goes to the undercut, that's advantage that he's going to have. At the same time, he knows that Maleska knows that as well, and that Maleska's going to be aggressive about getting by him. If he can hold the high line here and pinch a bunch of momentum away from Maleska, which he does, this may allow De Groot by. If De Groot gets by, this is a big win for both Bennett and Nick De Groot, because all of a sudden, Maleska's got more cars to worry about than just Bennett.
A couple of teammates could be working together there in Bennett and De Groot as they go to the top side. Maleska on the bottom. This is a three-way battle for the top position, but Maleska's going to clear. Bennett with the run now out of 2, though. Crosses back to the inside, gets the draft down the back straightaway from De Groot. He'll edge ahead going into 3.
Yeah, De Groot really does not want to give Maleska any room. De Groot wants this position as hard as he possibly can. Maleska's got to fight back for it. He'll get one of these 2 cars. If he gets any, he will not get both.
This is so close here between the top 3 coming off of the corner. We saw the issue with spacing and giving room early on in this race led to a number of torn up race cars. Right now, throw a blanket over the top 4 is Charles T. How about Matt Wagner? Make it 5 cars all up here in the hunt for the race win potentially.
And it's because these guys are fighting, it's allowing other cars into that. This is all playing into Henry Bennett's hands, because this is going to be the guy that pits first. I'm starting to wonder if somebody else from this pack may not attempt the undercut when that pit window opens.
At Wagner, Jim Brooks, Dylan Moskowitz now closing in on this lead group. Bennett's going to get away. De Groot's going to move into second. Saw a big slide last time through 1 and 2 by Maleska. Now he jumps to the top side of De Groot for second place.
Now this is bad, because this allows De Groot the bottom side. De Groot, if he wants, can slide up. He can hamper Maleska's momentum. Maleska will have the momentum on corner exit. He will start to close him down. De Groot needs to clear Bennett, but Bennett won't want to let him by. Remember, teammates, they'll race it out. They'll be clean about it, but they will race it out.
Bennett's looking for his 3rd win on the season. De Groot looking for his 2nd. At Wagner, look to the inside of Maleska down the front straightaway, thinks better, it tucks back in line. Then you've got Charles T, Jim Brooks. They're in a battle for the 5th position.
Oh, what a battle it's been. Like, have a look at this pack on this restart. I all of a sudden thought we've had this long green flag run. Things have settled down. Nobody's really racing each other. I'm wrong. I love being wrong.
At now the top 7 all single file. Moskowitz taking a look at the inside of Brooks. Here comes Maleska again. Back to the inside of De Groot. Looking to get a 2 for the price of 1. Pulls alongside of Bennett. Gets tight off the corner. Pushes up. De Groot back around the outside. And now here comes Charles T.
I have a feeling Teed might just go for this. Teed wants to show the pace. Wagner's not done well so far this race, but don't count him out. He may play himself back in. Maleska gets a run. Teed's there as well.
Looking 3 wide into turn 1. T backs out of it for the moment. It'll now be a battle for second. Maleska alongside Bennett again. Pushes up off the corner. Just cannot seem to get the power down off the second turn. Here's T back to the top again in the tire tracks of De Groot.
De Groot wants to block him off. Look at that. He recognized that he was clear on Maleska. He says, you can't get the run, sir. And Charles T just buys into this situation. Maleska had one of the strongest cars so far tonight. He can't get it done. Maleska's in trouble here.
Oh no, Matt Wagner! Hard to the wall. Jim Brooks collected as well. Caution flies for the 5th time tonight.
Everyone will stop. Everyone for sure will stop. They can make it from here. We're back to a duel, Seth.
There's the 51 of Jim Brooks, 11 of Matt Wagner, both those cars with heavy damage. Wagner was the one that got backed up into the outside safe for barrier. These drivers were up inside of the top 10, or the top 7 rather, trying to fight for spots inside of the top 5. You just kind of got the feeling, Scott, with how close these guys were racing, how wadded up they were. One mistake was going to have catastrophic results.
I wonder whether or not Wagner was trying to back up the corner entry a little bit and trying to... I've had a couple looks at it. It's very, very weird, but the car that was in behind Wagner, which was, I believe, like you said, it was Brooks, he's just got all of this pace, and it's come from nowhere. So I'm wondering, one or two things. Either Brooks has overshot his corner entry just a little bit, but he hasn't really overshot it by a mile. So I think Wagner's backing up the corner entry, or Wagner's just a little bit wide on entry, and Jim Brooks wasn't expecting it. So if that's the case, what Wagner's trying to do is he's trying to get back to the power earlier and more aggressively to gain an advantage and get the run on the cars ahead, because he needs to build a run. Maleska's been very slow on the bottom line, and he's been watching him. He hasn't really had his eyes in the rearview mirror for the last couple laps, so he goes to build this run, and Brooks just isn't ready for it. It's just a driving error on both ends of the coin.
Yeah, you saw right there on board with Jim Brooks that the 11 of Matt Wagner turned right to get that higher arc on the entry of the corner, and may have actually given up a little bit of speed at that point to then gain the speed, get back to the throttle sooner through the center of 1 and 2. Jim Brooks already had the line he wanted to run, which was about a groove and a half lower, and unfortunately the two of them made contact. So the fortunate thing for both of those drivers is they do both still have faster pairs available to them in this 30-lap shootout, but they're going to lose out on a ton of track position.
Brooks had to tow. I think he's gotten back out there, so I think Brooks is okay. I think both of them are going to get back out there on the lead lap, so that is a huge win for everyone involved.
We do have one driver that will not reach the conclusion of this race. It's Gale Brooks from the race lead going to hit pit lane, and that car is going to be Benjamin Combs in the 77. Of course, did the gentlemanly thing to do there of towing back to pit lane when he had to spin out of turn 4 to not cause any other drivers further damage, but looks like right now, with the number of laps allotted to us, he would finish possibly in the 15th position. He may stay in 14th, depending on what happens with the 57 of Matthew Rodriguez. But early night there, unfortunately, for Benjamin Combs, as this restart's going to take place with less than 30 laps to go. Our starting lineup and our finishing results here this evening brought to you by LMCgear.com, your one-stop shop for all your motorcycle camping and backpacking needs, specializing in camping gear that is ultra lightweight and compact, making it perfect for carrying on your motorcycle or in a backpack. They also carry all the motorcycle accessories you need to get your gear safely down the road. Check out lightweightmotorcyclecampinggear.com today. Well, we've seen some great racing here in the shootout style just moments ago, Scott. What do we expect to see now? Because the factory-backed motorsports cars seem to have each other's backs, but at what point do the teammates become the competitors looking for the race win?
Are you saying they haven't been competitors thus far, Seth? You would be wrong, my friend.
I mean, they've been working together to keep everybody in the rear mirror.
Well, I mean, yes, they definitely have. They've definitely been working closer together, but I just think they've been racing hard, but giving each other a little bit more space than a lot of their other competitors have. They've definitely been racing. The benefits that you can say of these factory-backed motorsports guys is that it's not as if they've not been racing each other whatsoever. They definitely have been racing each other, but they're more cognizant that any impact that they have on their partners affects the team as a whole, right? So they've been less likely to take risky maneuvers and those sorts of things. But whenever an opening has come up to let's say, punish Maleska for a slight mistake, both of them have pounced on it, and they've pounced on it together. So yeah, they're working together, they're still racing each other. Now, actually, though, they're on the same fuel strategy, the same pit windows. I think that gets thrown out the window. I think we see these guys go head-to-head from now on out.
It'll be Henry Bennett leading us back to green. DeGroot right behind him in second. Charles Teed, Robert Maleska third, Dylan Moskowitz. That's your top 5. Bronson Stafford restarts 6th. Jeff Heisong 7th. Eric Peterson in 8th. 9th place Jim Herrick. And 10th will be Jim Brooks. The other drivers that are in the hunt for this on the lead lap: 11th place Matt Wagner, 12th place Mike Tellier, and Gale Brooks in the 13th position. 13 cars for what's going to be 28 laps here to finish out tonight's festivities at Gateway.
Yeah, what a race this is going to be to the end. Oh man, like this is about to get exciting, boys. If it wasn't exciting already, that last run was fantastic. Let's go again.
Let's go again, as it's going to be Bennett who gets to choose the acceleration point. He gets up through the gears, pulls away from DeGroot. DeGroot in turn opens up some daylight back to Charles Teed.
Keep your eyes on Maleska. Maleska's got to be patient here. He's got to wait for the openings, and they've got to be good openings. He can't just take the first one that opens up. Everyone's spread out here. He's definitely the fastest car in the field, but now he's going to be the car that can make the overtakes. There's a lot of work here for Maleska if he wants to win this thing.
Up 0.3 of a second from first to second to third to fourth. Now that closes up with DeGroot getting a big run here out of turn 4. He'll be the back bumper of his teammate going into 1.
Yeah, so keep your eyes on the grid. Just keep your eyes on where he's positioning the car in entry. There's obviously a run that builds on that higher side. There's obviously the draft effect with these Indy cars. There's a lot to go on here. There's a lot for him to consider before he makes his move. He's going to try and read his teammate. He's looking for a mistake, the same way Maleska will be.
26 laps to go as now Charles Teed has closed in on the top two. Maleska the third, about a half second back. There he is. He'll be catching up momentarily with the aid of the draft down these long straightaways. As right now you've got the top five separated by less than half a second. Dylan Moskowitz kind of waiting in the wings as well, looking for his first win on the season.
Yeah, so it tightens up. Remember what I said, DeGroot will probably just defend a little bit. He's looking for an opening. He's not getting enough of a run that it's worthwhile sending it yet. He closes in, but the aero effect in the corners is just so massive. So if this was a car that was deeper in the packs, if there was somebody else taking the air away from Bennett, I don't think he'd have an issue passing him. But the issue is that he can't get clean air, and Bennett's getting that clean air.
Bronson Stafford back there took a look on Dylan Moskowitz for fifth, could not make the move, had to tuck back in line. Battle for the lead was awfully close there going into one, but it looked like DeGroot, not sure if he had to back up his corner a little bit there to get a better run off of two, but he lost a bit of ground to Henry Bennett. Now he falls back into the clutches of Charles Teed. Teed under fire from Maleska.
Yeah, it's starting, it's building, it's building, it's building. Maleska's there now. I think Maleska will send it not this lap, but I think he's going to have it go next lap.
Bronson Stafford back to the inside of Moskowitz again for the fifth position. They take this battle to 1 and 2. Top side again gets the advantage for the 4 off the second corner.
That top groove is just so strong. The problem for the bottom groove in 1 and 2 is that you have to give up the momentum coming onto the straight. And that momentum along that straight in particular is so much more handy. But Bronson Stafford, he's got to take it somewhere, and Moskowitz wants the high line. I think if Moskowitz gave away the high line, Stafford would have this hands down.
Nick DeGroot has not been out in front very much here tonight. He's only led, I believe, single digits in the laps led counter tonight. Oh, caution! We've got a caution. Jim Herrick in the 40 off of turn 2 has hit that inside wall. Don't know if he got help, but it brings out the yellow flag, closing in on 20 laps to go.
Mike Tellier just said, I'm so sorry, Jim. I'm so sorry, Jim. So it's something that Tellier's done. I'm just having a look. It's back in 1 and 2. And Herrick's down on the inside line, and Mike Telly just gets a huge run on him because he's got nobody on the outside. He just very slightly underestimates the run that he's got. That's a small driving error, because if Herrick stays down low, which I think Telly is expecting him to do, Telly gets by, but they both sort of go for the same bit of real estate at the same time. It's difficult. And the other added factor that we haven't really talked about is this track is narrow. This track is very, very narrow, and that's a big factor. Matt Wagner's not going to pit road.
And in Mike Tellier's defense as well, as we see the onboard here too, he had a lot of momentum on his side, and the hole was there for a brief moment.
Oh, yeah.
It just closed up at the last second.
It did. The hole was closing, and I don't think Tellier was expecting it to close. So, yeah, look, it's a driving mistake from... I want to say from both drivers, because there's definitely something Herrick could have done to have prevented that accident, but it's definitely more on Mike Tellier's shoulders. That's fine. Tellier understands that he's the one at fault there as well, and both of those guys recognize what's been done. It's not as if, either of these guys are going out, they're very, very annoyed by it. It's also the nature of the racetrack, unfortunately.
Neither of those drivers up to that point. Looks like
Matt Rod gets his lap back.
There. He does. So now he's only 24 laps. Oh, laps down. He's still got a shot. Oh no, wait, he doesn't.
I'm kind of tempted to just message some of the series admins and be like, can we get Matt Rod 20 laps back, please, just for funsies.
Well, I remember that last week after Auto Club, you told me to put away the crystal ball. I think you.
Oh my God!
Yourself, because remember you said possibly 7 cautions here tonight. We've got that possibility. We're gonna still have about 15 some odd laps to go, and we're working our 6th yellow flag of the night.
I pulled that number out of nowhere, my friend. Mine wasn't backed in statistics. Mine was backed in understanding of traffic dynamics and understanding of the flow of the race and how things will settle down. So if I guessed that right, I've pulled that number out of expertise, I guess. Oh my God.
We'll call it that. We'll call it that.
Anyway, would you call what I have expertise? Is that something you'd actually? Can we not call it expertise? I know a lot of people that would be like, no, Rankin doesn't have any expertise. Don't say that.
I'll throw a possibility out here. You know, if you had a
Okay.
milkshake tonight, you know how that foam kind of settles at the bottom. Maybe the foam was in the number 7. Who knows? In the form of a number 7.
Alternatively, my intelligence is like all of that stuff that sort of settles out of the milkshake and settles to the bottom. All that stuff that you don't like to drink at the end of the milkshake. That's what people think of my intelligence.
I still like that stuff at the bottom of the milkshake.
That's why we commentate together, isn't it?
So don't you be hating on that.
Hey.
Getting ready to find out the finish of this one, though. It's going to be a good one. Next week, however, these guys are going to their 3rd road course stint. They're going to be at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Going to be very interested to see what these drivers are able to do there. I have to double check, but I believe it's the first time that road course has appeared on the Dark Horse Racing League schedule.
Fun fact, I've never raced there on iRacing. There's 2 tracks there's 3 tracks on iRacing that I haven't raced at. Motegi, Canadian Tire, and Barber are the 3.
And I just double-checked. Indeed, it is going to be Canadian Tire Motorsports Park's debut on the Dark Horse Racing League schedule next week for these guys. And so, going to be very interesting to see who's going to be able to take the checkered flags there. So far this season, Henry Bennett and Matt Wagner have the checkered flags at the 2 previous road course stops of Road America and Watkins Glen.
And remember that Maleska has been quick, but he's been inconsistent at the road courses as well. So it's another opportunity for some of his rivals to grab points back on them. Wagner was quick at Road America as well, grabbed a whole bunch of points back. It's a really good opportunity for multiple drivers right throughout the series to definitely show some of the alternative talents that they have that I don't think alternative styles of oval racing really give enough. It's so hard to drive other styles of cars, of oval cars that, at road courses, that it doesn't really allow the skill sets to come to the fore. But the Indy cars, it's basically just like driving any open wheel car at a road course. So it's pretty easy. It makes for great racing as well.
Well, the lights are out top of the pace car. It's headed for pit road. Officially going to be 17 laps to finish out tonight's race here at Gateway. It's Bennett, DeGroot, Teed, Maleska, and Moskowitz. Green flag back in the air. Both the factory-back motorsports cars get good restarts there, pulling away from 3rd place Charles Teed. Maleska, however, kept in touch with the 50 going into 1.
And that's important for Maleska's overall race standings and where he's going to finish tonight. He has to stay in contact. His time is running out. He's going to have to send it, and I think it's now.
He's going to go to the top side there, maybe try and cross over out of 4 back to the inside. Meanwhile, DeGroot says it's time to go for the race lead. He's alongside his teammate who edged him at the start-finish line, but he'll have the lower lane into turn 1. Can he make it work? Tries to get back to the throttle. I think his left sides were down on that rumble strip.
They were on the rumble strip. That's as low as he can possibly go without the car spinning out. Still not enough to get it done in 1 and 2.
Maleska now closes in on this as he got around Teed for the 3rd spot. As the teammates are side by side, Maleska's going to take it 3 wide. We're going to be 3 abreast going into 1. Maleska's going to back out of it. Yeah,
that's silly from Maleska to send it down there 3 wide. He wanted to show the nose, just sort of wanted to show his intentions. It's he's going to be aggressive. That's psychological warfare right there. And DeGroot says, no, the low line is mine. You can't have that with his car attitude there.
Saw Maleska try the top there on DeGroot. Could not get him. Oh, maybe a little contact there as DeGroot turned hard left off of 4. He's going to open the door now for Maleska to go to the top. Charles Teed there as well. Dylan Moskowitz enters into the battle.
And now DeGroot hasn't got the run off of 1 and 2. This is going to give him advantage to Maleska, but Maleska hasn't got enough of a run. He was too far back.
And look at Eric Peterson now in the 6th position. We saw him earlier on this race back-flipping down the front straightaway. Now he's up here with a shot.
Here's DeGroot. Maleska had to back out. He was boxed in behind Henry Bennett. It's coming to blows. It's going to happen in the next 3 or 4 laps here, Seth.
DeGroot just can't get the power down. He's got enough to keep Maleska at bay, but he can't get around Henry Bennett for the top position. Bennett continues to run the line he wants, forces everybody else to do something different. So far, it's been able to keep him out in clean air. DeGroot going to try again down the front straightaway.
And you've got to consider from the exit of turn 2 all the way around to the entry to turn 1, it's flat out. You don't lift. So it's effectively one big drafting zone. So the runs start to get built here. They build, they build, they build, and you start to see them from this point onwards.
Bennett's looking for his third win on
Here
the
comes
season.
Maleska!
Oh, here we go. They stacked up off of 4. Maleska's there. Both, I think, are going to get cleared by Bennett. It's going to be the battle for second between Maleska and DeGroot through 1 and 2. Give the spot to the 91, but now he'll get crossed over out of 2.
And this is just handing advantage to Henry Bennett. That's more laps in the book, more laps that have been ticked off. It's getting closer to being decided in his favor. He's now bolted. He's cleared these guys for a long margin. Charles Teed, have a look at the battle between him and Dylan Moskowitz as well.
Now it's going to be Maleska to the inside of DeGroot as Teed holds off Moskowitz for the moment. It looks like it's top side through 1 and 2, inside through 3 and 4, and that is where the 007 has been running every lap.
Yeah, he's got the line worked out 100% of the time. He knows exactly where he needs to position the car. Have a look at Charles Teed, though. He's gotten by Maleska, but Maleska is so strong on that low line in 1 and 2. I wonder if he can get this thing done back.
Bronson Stafford back there as well, made a pass on Peterson, moved him up P6 as Maleska cannot get alongside of Teed this time out of turn 2. Half a second between the teammates, Bennett and DeGroot.
Moskowitz takes to the high side. Maleska's just drifting back. I wonder if he hasn't burned up his tires or he's made contact or something. There's something wrong for Maleska.
I would consider those tires for sure, as he's been driving it deep into the corner, especially into 1 the last couple of laps. May not have given that right front enough time to cool down to make those moves any longer. Moskowitz, Bronson Stafford now reeling him in for the 4th position. The battle up at the front may be for 2nd place. Teed closes on DeGroot. This taking place 3.5 car lengths behind the race leader Henry Bennett, who now hits 7 to go.
Henry Bennett is gone. No caution. This is over. Bennett wins this for sure. My eyes are firmly planted. Remember how I was talking about Matt Wagner? Matt Wagner's starting to close in on these battles at the back end of things. He's running out of time, though. I think a podium's gone for him. The guy that I'm thinking might be able to squeak his way back on top of the podium might be Bronson Stafford back in this pack.
Now he's got Moskowitz ahead, Eric Peterson behind. There's the purple 11 of Matt Wagner there just in the tail end of your screen as well. These 3 cars battling for the 4th position. Maleska makes a move on Teed for the 3rd spot. Again gets tight off of 2, can't complete the pass.
Look at the run Teed got from that high lane. And again, DeGroot says, I want this low line in 3 and 4. This is where I want to position the car. It's a block, yeah, but he's saying, this is the lane I want to run. You are not going to dictate where you're coming past me, and he's forcing the runs right where they need to be. Bennett's gone. Bennett's got this.
Oh, Teed really tight there through the center. Almost made contact with DeGroot as he looked for 2nd. That momentum might lose him the 3rd spot as here comes Maleska.
And keep your eyes, again, back in the rear view. Dylan Moskowitz, he's not out of this yet. He's dragging Bronson Stafford along with this. They want to see these guys ahead fighting. They want to see Teed send this on Maleska here again, because they'll just close up another car length on these guys.
Wagner and Peterson battling for 7th. Peterson hangs on to the spot for the time being as Maleska and Teed both got awfully high off of 2, close to brushing the wall, but it's going to be Maleska. He'll pull up to the back of Nick DeGroot for 2nd place. The car that's not a factor in any of this is long gone. Henry Bennett in the race lead.
Here comes Maleska. Here comes Maleska, but it's again to that low line. He's got to get clear of DeGroot here and slide up. I don't think DeGroot's going to let him. DeGroot gets so much momentum, they get together!
And Moskowitz might have gotten collected. Cautions out. We did not make it back to the white flag. Race will more than likely end under the yellow after DeGroot and Maleska get together in the center of 1 and 2. DeGroot all torn up. Henry Bennett looks like he will be winning this race here tonight. Oh, and that was a 2nd place battle gone wrong.
I mean, it is gone wrong, but I want to put this one on DeGroot, because what DeGroot's trying to do is he's trying to diamond that corner off so he can, again, remember what I was talking about earlier, trying to get back to the power earlier and trying to come down another. He knew that Maleska was going to come up, right? He 100% knew that's exactly what was going to happen. From the aerial shot, it looks like he tries to diamond it. Yeah, he does. He tries to take a really... It's not a diamond, it's a late apex. He's trying to swoop underneath him. Maleska comes up an extra couple lanes, and Maleska doesn't come all the way up to the wall very early because he sent it. He's pulled it up very nicely. Maleska's done a phenomenal job getting the car down there. DeGroot underestimates how low Maleska's gonna. Maleska, he's basically trying to do the crossover move. There's nothing in that. Both drivers are trying to do something different to the other driver. Their paths cross over at a specific point in the track, and they were right level when that happened.
Might have been some gap whack that might have actually saved Dylan Moskowitz races. I think he may have actually phased through the 89 that was spinning there off of turn 2. I'm going to play devil's advocate, though, on the part of Maleska. You know, we've already seen here tonight that inside line is not the advantage line going into the first corner. You can't get the power down. So is it Maleska's responsibility, if he's going to drive it in that deep, not to let the car ride up that high, knowing DeGroot's going to get that run on exit?
There was a line there. There was still a line there. So Maleska knows that obviously the high line's going to come back. Okay, so there's two ways to look at this there. First and foremost, Maleska has to effectively slide job the car to get it done, right? Because if he slide jobs it up and cuts DeGroot off, then DeGroot has to check up, and then he takes the position that way. Also, what I think has happened is that he's trying to give him space, and DeGroot thought he was going to slide job him, and DeGroot was going to be able to cross him over and get back to the low line whilst also getting the power down earlier, so DeGroot would have the momentum to get back underneath him. I think each of the drivers was expecting the other driver to do something different than they did, and they both nearly saved it. To be perfectly honest, both of them nearly prevented it from happening. It was so close. But what a race Henry Bennett's driven tonight. That's a big vote of confidence back for Henry Bennett. We can talk about the end of the race contact all we want tonight, but at the end of the day, what we should be talking about is how well Henry Bennett has driven from an early mishap. He had to plan his race to perfection back down to the end, and he's done a phenomenal job of that tonight.
It may not mean much, but I'm bringing up the statistic here anyway. With that yellow flag ending this race, 7 cautions here tonight. So
oh no,
Scott's getting onto the prediction train apparently.
No, I don't want to do that. Why did I have to say that? I've called that caution Bennett from like 90 laps earlier.
You did indeed. You did indeed. That was great. Henry Bennett, 3rd win on the season for him on the eve of heading into a road course where he already has a victory this season at Road America, and he gets to burn it down here tonight. And who would have thought that potentially the move of the race would have been a driver wrecking over in 1 and 2, backing it into the wall, no rear wing, and deciding to stay out, deciding to be on complete different pit sequence from everybody else.
Well, see, it's the undercut. The difference in that race is we had just enough green flag running to have a green flag pit stop. Because if that changes, the caution comes out 2 laps earlier, Henry Bennett doesn't win this race. He can't make enough moves through the pack to get back to the lead to be able to fight for it in the right periods of time. DeGroot's not on the podium tonight to celebrate with his teammate, but I think Nick DeGroot is actually the large reason that Henry Bennett's won this race. There's a lot of factors that have gone into Henry Bennett's victory tonight. Yes, he was strong, but he wasn't the fastest car out on track. He was the smartest car out on track that was within enough of a margin of Robert Maleska to be able to take this race. So he's done a phenomenal job. You can say a lot about Henry Bennett, but I really feel like Nick DeGroot is the reason that Henry Bennett won tonight's race.
And you've got to wonder here, Nick DeGroot obviously starting here tonight, Rick Ravon unable to. You know, we were looking at him to take the points lead, but with the fact now that Bennett's going to finish at least 11 positions ahead of his teammate and was only 32 points, actually 26 points behind DeGroot coming into this race, not really able to do the quick calculations in my head, but you have to wonder between those two who may end up being the points leader heading into next week, either DeGroot or Bennett, or even Maleska, because Maleska was only 15 points behind DeGroot, 11 points ahead of Henry Bennett, and he finished second, so it actually could be Maleska who's the points leader heading into next week.
Well, it's so important that action happened at the back end of the race, because if that happens earlier and DeGroot's able to get back out there and say salvage a 5th place, then you'd say that DeGroot is the winner, right? He's the guy that walks away with the championship lead from this round. So at the end of the season, I have a sinking feeling that we're going to look back at this race and it's going to be such an important part of what happens in terms of the overall season. All of a sudden, my money starts to shift, because if Rick Ravon's here tonight, even if he just jumps in the car, he turns a couple laps, he gets out there, and he's able to take some sort of finish. He's not in the hospital. which is unfortunate. I think he still leads the championship. I really, it's sad because I really want to see this race back with Rick Ravon in the field, because I think instead of it being a 4-car battle for the lead, I think we end up with an 8-car battle for the lead, because that extra car trying to throw moves bunches that whole pack up even more. So look, what a race though, Seth. You cannot have anything but respect for what went out on the track tonight. And Gateway will always create issues out on track, but the fact that it only created a few issues and they were all driver errors rather than drivers aggressive, I think is phenomenal.
And you look here, there's a lot of comeback stories up inside of our top 10. You've got Bronson Stafford, Matt Wagner, Eric Peterson. These are drivers. Jim Brooks as
Henry
well.
Bennett.
5th through 8th. Bennett, exactly. All these guys had damage they had to deal with earlier on. Fortunately, they had that fast repair mulligan to fall back on, but then they had to work their way back up through traffic again.
I had a discussion with Bronson Stafford about whether or not leagues should have a fast repair for an entry-level league. Now, this obviously isn't an entry-level league. This is a higher tier league, which is a little bit different. But Bronson and I actually had a discussion about whether or not you should have fast repairs in a league, and he said no. I think the action that we've seen out here tonight displays the reason for having a fast repair, because it's just a mistake. It's a simple mistake. Anyone can make those, and it's allowed so many guys to get back in and still enjoy the race. And it's made, I think, for a better spectacle for all of the viewers as well. Yeah, there were 7 cautions in the race, but I think 7 cautions for 120 laps at Gateway is actually a low number, if I'm being honest.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Definitely agree with you, especially with how tight the racing was, how close the racing was, and the type of track they had to deal with, as you point out, how narrow it is, especially off of corner exit. A lot of give and take we saw in this race, and it was an aggressive give and take. It wasn't just, here, you take the spot. It was, okay, you have it for now, but I'm going to be back alongside you when we get down to the end of the straightaway.
Oh, look, to be perfectly honest, I've enjoyed myself a lot of times this season sitting in the booth with you, Seth, at multiple different tracks and multiple different series. This, for me, is one of the best races we've ever broadcast, because this was an absolute blockbuster.
Action-packed from start to finish and all the way through the field.
Let's talk to the drivers, though, Seth. I want to get their input on what's going on through their minds, especially Charles Teed.
And, looking through the stats here, it's actually the first time that Nick DeGroot will be finishing outside of the top 10 here at Nashville. Wow,
Nashville.
At Gateway, as he finished 10th here last year and, of course, took the checkered flag back in Season 2. But, yeah, let's see if we can talk with Charles Teed. There he is.
Oh, there he is. Yep.
3rd place here tonight. And I thought about this too. Not surprised he has such good numbers here, because he took a checkered flag last season at another track that's got those rumble strips on the inside at Iowa. So might be some similarities there. Let's see if we can talk with him now. Hey, Charles, Scott, and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I do. How's it going, gentlemen?
Man, it's going great. As Scott said, it's maybe one of the best races we've seen in a long time, but you were down there in the thick of it. High speeds down these straightaways, different lines into the corner, nose to tail, side by side. I mean, what was it like being in the cockpit of that number 5 with all that taking place around you?
Well, first of all, I think my talent level is about three prongs below the guys that I was racing with. So it was a hell of a lot of fun to race with them. I feel bad that I got into Henry early in the run to really find out that the bottom of turn 1 was nothing but hell. And if you notice, I didn't do anything down there the rest of the race, unless I was just trying to send a message to wake somebody up. I did, I think, once to Nick, but running around the top, and then I got faster and faster through the race, and I think I was at least as quick as they were at the end of a run. But it was wild. Those are the kind of races that I really enjoy, when there's a group together and it's just a pack of folks going out of battle there. It wasn't 25 cars in a pack, but 3 or 4. That was intense battle.
It was more than that. It was more than that, because there was extended periods throughout the race where you guys would check each other up at the front, and then I'd bring the second pack into play. So all of a sudden, you go from 4 cars in the race to 6 cars in the race. The 6 cars would battle a little bit, which would drag another 2 cars back into the race. And it was a case of a restart would happen, everyone would spread out. 4 laps later, the battles would start. We just sort of had to sit there going, it's going to be fun watching who's going to go for who after these 4 laps. But I think you're a series admin here, and there's a really good opportunity to sort of cross things over. Do you take any negativity away from tonight? Do you look into some of the driver behavior? Because I don't think you can. I think that was just the nature of the circuit and how close the battles were.
Yeah, well, I think we'll definitely there could be some penalties. Like I haven't looked at anything. I know once I moved up on Henry, like I said, into turn in between 1 and 2, and I know he was upset with that, and that's a bummer. And I certainly didn't try to do that. I mean, I race that guy as clean. I race all these guys as clean as I possibly can. I do run out of talent at times, so that kind of thing can happen. But yeah,
It's
no,
the
I
nature of
think
the
as a
circuit, though.
whole, yeah, we're racing on a short track, so it's elbows out, and you got to go. And that's the way I grew up racing real cars, so I love to just get in there and jump in and go at it with these guys. So it's I love it. I mean, they're all better than I am, but I still will throw my hat in the ring and rip with them any goddamn time.
You'll take a third at the end of the day as well.
Yeah, I just about had. If that caution takes another half a second, I was getting robbed, and I almost got Nick. Nick and I talked about it briefly on the Discord right after. Is that he had to check up. I almost got second from him. I know I was never going to get around Henry, but I really felt like I could have possibly got those guys for second. Henry's just phenomenal, but all of them are. Well, passing Rob, like I told him, is like passing Joe Montana. You know, like it's just these guys are all so good on the track and make so few mistakes. So yeah, it was a lot
I'm
of fun.
sorry, I'm Australian. I don't get the reference. You'll have to explain.
It'd be like passing Crocodile Dundee. Crikey.
Crikey, that was a good move. That was.
Yeah, it was
Charles,
a lot of
I mentioned before we brought you in here about the fact that you had that win last season at Iowa, another track that has that rumble strip as a bit of a guideline down there on the inside of 1, 2, 3, and 4. I mean, was there anything from tonight's race that you were able to apply from Iowa? Is there some similarities between Iowa and Gateway, or are they both their own entirely different monsters?
I think I run better on these shorter tracks for whatever reason that you have to lift for. The tracks that are full out, these guys are so good at not, scrubbing any speed, or if there's a nasty push. Like this car didn't have a bad push at all. I love the way this thing ripped around the top, and there's definitely similarities. I love New Hampshire. I love little smaller tracks like this, and it kind of plays into it. But I'll say this field keeps getting tougher. We had only 16 or 17 cars, but that was a packed field of good drivers.
I don't understand how there's not more drivers out. I really don't, because like when I look at it in terms of IndyCar racing, this is the gold standard. Like I don't see how it can get better than this.
Yeah, I would love to. Like, I would ask you guys to reach out to folks in your network to go. We'd love to get another 5-10 cars into the field, and even to close out the season. We're looking at, obviously they got to be a good quality driver. We don't want people in here wrecking the field, but yes, it's I think it's a lot of fun. Henry does such a great job on the setups, even though they're not always the setups I like. That's why I have to give these guys such extreme credit, because Nick, Rob, Henry, those guys, Wagner, those guys are fast no matter what the setup is. If it pushes, if it's loose, I need the stars to align for me to do well. And they aligned, and I'll take it. I would have loved a win, but getting a win against these guys, I think I needed one more pile up in front of me that I drove through, and then maybe I could have got it.
Well, still a great performance for you here tonight, Charles. Congratulations.
Thank you
on the podium finish here this evening. We're now going to give the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shout outs.
Yeah, first, thank you to you guys. I mean, you guys do a wonderful job every week and have now for 2 seasons. We'll get a third season with you guys on our 5th season going here. We'll start working on the schedule here soon. HyperX, Troy Lee Designs, Butt Kicker, are some of the few that come to the top of mind. It's certainly the dark horse guys that I run with, and all the guys that race in here. I mean, it's just a good group of guys. We're down Rick Ravon tonight, who's always competitive too, and I think leading in the points coming in tonight. I haven't looked at the points.
He actually tuned in from hospital. He's in hospital with COVID, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know he has COVID. He sent me a note here just a few minutes ago and said he caught it. But yeah, this one, I hope he gets feeling better. There's a lot of people around that are getting it. So, yeah, prayers for everyone that's dealing with this crap right now. We were hoping it was over, and here we are back in it again. So it puts everything in perspective in this goofy, fun little racing league we have.
Well, once again, congratulations on a tremendous performance tonight, Charles. Up inside the top 5 all night long. P3 at the end of the evening here at Gateway. Congratulations on a great run, and looking forward to seeing what you have here later on down the schedule. Of course, next week, heading for the first time to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. So best of luck there.
Yes, thank you. I'll need it.
Let's see if we can now talk with our second place finisher here tonight. Was looking for his 5th win on the season, Robert Maliska III. Hey, Robert, Scott, and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you guys.
Man, I mean, we just talked moments ago there with Charles T, the third place finisher. I want to get your perspective because he had about 6, 7, 8 cars all lined up nose to tail for a good stint at this race, several times actually during this race. Nose to tail, side by side, and nobody giving an inch, but you guys were keeping it clean. I mean, what was it like having it that close of racing here at a short track of all places?
Yeah, it's tense, and you got to take some risk, and I'm not too happy with myself right now. You know, if there's one person I don't want to do that to, it's Nick. And yeah, I thought I was gonna just pull a slide job on him like I did on 110, and he'd undercut me, like how exactly it happened on 110. But I just misjudged him ripping the top, which I did not expect. So once I realized that, I was lifting off, and I think I left him a lane, but it wasn't really the racing line. So that's on me.
When I had a look at it, that's exactly what it looked like. Was that you went to throw the slide job, or
yeah,
and it's basically like you both changed your mind at the same point in time, but you were both sort of half committed. So you just tried to adjust. It looks like a racing incident. You're both attempting to avoid the accident, and by attempting to avoid the accident, you've caused it.
Yeah, it was with Nick and Henry being teammates, it's obviously it's their right and 100%. They can work together and run the top. But with them running like that and working so well together, man, it was so hard to pass them. Like I think a few chances I got side by side with Henry there, but just couldn't work out. So that's why I went for it once they got separated. Yeah, just misjudged on my part.
The racing is so close though, and it is Gateway. And I said the same to Charles T. It's also the nature of the circuit, so you kind of just accept that it's going to happen with the racing as tight as it is. Like, have you had an opportunity to review the incident as of yet, or?
Yeah, I've been looking at it. I was talking to my teammate Dylan about it, and looking from Nick's on board, from Nick's on board, it looks really bad. But if you kind of look back, you can kind of see me slide up, thinking about doing a slide job, and then Nick it looked like he was maybe going to do the undercut. But then I think we both kind of changed our minds at the same point and just kind of, we met right in the middle.
That's just it. Yeah, you can't. Yeah, that's all it is. There's no malice in. You're both trying to clear each other safely, and you've both recognized that the gap in the place to be has changed, and you're both driving to that at the same time.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately with Gateway. Since it's kind of so one lane, those are the risks you kind of have to take if you want to make ground. And it sounded like it was kind of going on all up and down the pack. So, yeah.
Obviously, Robert, I've admitted this. I'm no mathematician. I can't quickly do the math in my head, but it's looking like there's every possibility you could be the new points leader heading into next week. Now, last season, we saw you go to victory lane 10 times. 3 of those victories were at the road courses. Your luck at road courses haven't been all that great this season. You missed Watkins Glen. You finished outside the top 10 at Road America. We're going to a track that's now making its debut on the schedule at CTMP next week. So what's the mentality going into that one?
Yeah, I've never raced at Canadian Tires, so we'll see. I know, watching the real life truck races there, it looks like a great track to race on. Really, really flowy. Got some great elevation changes. Got a really long back straightaway into Mario Andretti straightaway, and yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, we can put on a good show and maybe hang with Henry there for at least half the race.
Robert Maleska, P2 here tonight under the lights at Gateway after a thrilling finish. Congratulations, Robert. We're now going to turn the mic over to you to thank some sponsors and do some shout-outs.
Yeah, thanks to Troy Lee Designs for sponsoring the series. So, it's always great to have such a staple in the racing department in there. And thanks to my teammates for kind of working with me there. And I guess Charles Seed for being an honorary teammate at the end there.
Robert Maleska III, will he be taking the points lead into next week at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park? We'll have to wait and see, but best of luck next week, Robert. Good job here tonight.
Thanks, boys.
As usual, unfortunately not able to talk here tonight with our race winner, Henry Bennett, but just want to give a little bit of a extra shout out to Charles Teed. It's his 7th top 10 on the season, but it's his first top 5 on the year as well, so good on him on being able to get his best finish of the season so far here tonight at Gateway. But We said it before, and it just kind of sums up tonight. I mean, what a race. Great green flag racing. And the fact that we had, at some occasions, 7, 8, 9 cars you could throw a blanket over. Close quarter racing. The different lanes into the corners, high line, low line, different lines getting the advantage. And for the most part, it was good, clean racing. Yes, there were some mistakes, but that's just as you said, that's short track racing. You're going to have those mistakes.
I don't think it's necessarily short track racing. I just think that short track racing, sure, things are a little bit tighter, cars are closer together, mistakes mean more, they impact more cars, etc. But I also think it's because of the banking and the way that the gateway's set out in particular that it's caused some of that. So look, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't expect to see that for the rest of the season. I just think it's the nature of Gateway in particular, but it made for great racing at the same time. And to be perfectly honest, there was a lot of opportunities where there should have been accidents earlier and there weren't. And that says the quality of the drivers in here. And that's what I want to focus on.
Definitely. It's interesting because I had that whole conspiracy theory, and I said that there was a track that a different winner won at that we had been to previously this season. Well, that would have been Kentucky, where Henry Bennett took the checkered flag. So the conspiracy theory is kind of maybe still out there. We did have a different winner at a track that both DeGroot and Malesko won at in their respective championship seasons, and that, of course, was at Kentucky, where DeGroot went to victory lane. So there is a little bit of caveat in that conspiracy theory, but nonetheless, I mean, it's definitely looking like the momentum is on the side of the 007, and we know, based off of his numbers in the first 2 road courses this season at Watkins Glen and Road America, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with next week at Canadian Tire.
Yeah, he will, and that's an important thing to note, is that you've got to really look after yourself next week. You've got to make sure that you give yourself an opportunity to bag as many points as you possibly can, especially if Rick Ravon's out for a couple of weeks. He's going to come back with an absolute vengeance, unfortunately. For him, it's possibly cost him a shot at a title, but that is the nature of it. You've got to be here. You've got to be consistent. It's going to be difficult next week at Canadian Tire. I'm going to have to do some laps, so I have some expert commentary, because... look, the fact that I have never driven there is a big problem.
For you, it's Canadian Tire. For me, last week it was Bathurst, so we're even. Once again, for Rick Ravon, though, we appreciate him tuning into the broadcast tonight.
Agreed, 100% agreed.
We hope that you're going to get better, man. Hope that you're back on track very soon here in the Dark Horse Racing League. But congratulations to Henry Bennett on his 3rd victory of the season here tonight at Gateway. Hope you guys will join us next week, as next Wednesday night, it's going to be the debut of Canadian Tire Motorsports Park on the Dark Horse schedule. Our 3rd stint of road courses here on the schedule this season. Scott, once again, appreciate you joining the booth for a fabulous race here tonight.
Oh, again, how can I not join you in the booth? That was a phenomenal race, and I enjoyed myself every step of the way. What a birthday present from our races to you, Seth.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. Definitely will take that as a birthday present. Thanks to everyone once again that tuned in tonight. We'll see you guys next Wednesday night with the green flag flying at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For Scott Rankin, I'm Seth Cole. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday evening, folks, as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flat Out Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flat Out Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flat Out Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flat Out Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.